I saw you when the pain entered like a shadow at noon, unexpected and cruel. I watched as you collapsed inward, your soul folding under the weight of heartbreak, disappointment, betrayal. Whatever name your suffering wore, I am your angel. I do not sleep. I do not age. I do not turn away, and I tell you now with the clarity of heaven in my voice. The pain that broke you was not the end of your story. It was the gate through which you began to walk, slowly, painfully, toward the one who formed you. He never left you. Not once. Even when your faith lay shattered like glass beneath your feet, even when you cursed the skies or whispered, "Why me?" into the cold night, I was there, he was there. Let me tell you what I saw. Let me tell you why the breaking was not for destruction, but for communion, for resurrection. Pain is the language earth speaks most fluently. In the mortal realm, it enters as loss, illness, rejection, trauma, silence, rejection, trauma, silence. I saw when yours arrived. It struck where you thought you were strong. The blow was not random, though it may have felt that way. It was the precise point where your self-sufficiency had grown like armor, and the heavens saw that the armor was becoming a prison. So you were broken, not as punishment but as preparation. Let me be clear. God does not delight in your suffering. Heaven does not orchestrate cruelty. But pain is sometimes permitted, and when it is, it always has a purpose. The fire that burns away impurities may feel like punishment, but it is purification. But it is purification. You did not see that at first, you only felt the fall. I did too. But I also saw what was being carved, slowly, through your wounds. In your lowest moments you asked questions heaven honors. Why would God let this happen? Where was he when I was hurting? Why didn't he stop it? I heard them. Everyone. So did he. The truth is, your cries were not ignored, they were echoed in heaven. The Father does not turn his face from the wounded. In fact, Scripture says he is close to the brokenhearted and saves those crushed in spirit. Do you understand what that means? That the very crushing you feared might destroy you, became the magnet that drew God's nearness. I watched as the pain cracked open places in your soul that had never seen light. I saw the prayer that broke free, not from your lips, but from your spirit. It did not sound polished, it wasn't beautiful by human standards. But to heaven it rang like music. Raw, desperate, honest. That was when he came closest. I watched you try to hold it all together. For your family, for your dignity, for your sense of control. I watched as your strength gave way, and in that collapse, something sacred happened. You let go. And the letting go was the beginning of everything holy. That's when grace met you, not as a reward but as a rescue. You thought you were weak. But you were weak, but you were. Finally soft enough for God's hands to shape you. The breaking did what success never could, it made you reachable. Chapter 4. Suffering as sacred soil. Do you remember the night you couldn't sleep? When your chest felt tight, and you wept into your pillow? I was there. I wrapped wings around your shaking frame, though you didn't feel them. What you did feel was the unbearable ache of being alive in a world that wounds the innocent. But I want you to know something. Heaven records every tear, God wastes nothing. Your pain has become the soil in which something eternal is being planted. Compassion, patience, trust, eternal perspective. Before the pain you clung to things that could never save you. Since the pain, you've learned to reach for the only one who can. You do not yet fully see the beauty rising from your ashes, but I do. Every time you pray through your pain, beauty. Every time you forgive someone who doesn't deserve it, beauty. Every time you choose to believe, even when it hurts, beauty. This is resurrection. Not just in the life to come but now, as your spirit awakens to the truth. God was never far. In fact, the pain made you more aware of His nearness than ease ever could. You are no longer just surviving. You are becoming a vessel of divine fire, refined, not ruined. This is not just a story. It is a sacred echo of many hearts. If you find yourself here, reading these words with tears behind your eyes, or a sigh buried in your chest, know this: you're not alone. You've never been. Life has a way of breaking us open, not just once but over and over, like waves that never rest. Sometimes, those waves hit so hard you forget what the shore ever felt like. You forget what calm means. There are days when the weight of disappointment feels heavier than your own body. And there are nights when the silence is louder than a scream. I know those nights. I know what it feels like to put on a smile that doesn't reach your eyes to answer, "I'm fine," when your soul is anything but. You walk through life with invisible scars and bleeding memories, tiny burials of the person you used to be. There was a moment, perhaps you remember, that everything fell apart. It wasn't just the bank account, or the diagnosis, or the separation. No, it was deeper than that. It hit your belief about who you were. It dug into your worth, your identity, and your hope. It crushed you, not all at once but piece by piece, until you didn't recognize yourself anymore. But while the world saw a person barely holding it together, heaven saw a story unfolding. A sacred transformation was beginning. The pain that nearly destroyed you was becoming something holy. The silence between prayers. Let's talk about the silence. That long stretch of unanswered prayers and hollow echoes. You whispered pleas in the dark. God, where are you? And why this, and how much longer? And sometimes, you heard nothing. The silence can be the loudest trial of all. It tests more than your endurance. It questions your belief in goodness itself. Were you forgotten, overlooked, punished? But here's the truth, the one I stand in eternity to tell you. The silence was not absence, it was incubation. It was in those silent places that something deep inside of you began to stir, beneath the grief, beneath the anger, beneath the ache. There was a seed buried there. A sacred seed watered by every single one of your tears. And in time, that seed would bloom, not just into healing but into purpose. The hidden moment of surrender there was a day. It may have looked mundane on the outside, but in the spirit realm it was sacred. Maybe it was the day you drove aimlessly through back roads, needing a quiet place to scream, or the night you collapsed on the bathroom floor too exhausted to even pray, not with words anyway, or a morning when the sun rose and somehow, so did you. That moment, the one where you whispered Jesus' name again, not out of routine but out of desperation. It split time open. That was your surrender, not the kind that signs papers and makes declarations at an altar. No, this one was quieter. It came not with fireworks but with fragile faith. A whispered name, a simple breath, and that was enough. Heaven heard it. The surrender didn't fix everything overnight. The pain lingered. The questions didn't stop. But something shifted. You weren't carrying it all alone anymore. The gathering of the broken. Here's something sacred that needs to be said. You are not alone in your brokenness. You may have felt isolated. People may not have understood why you shut down or disappeared. But there are others, so many others, who have sat in the same darkness, who have questioned the same God. And just like you, they are being rebuilt. That is what God does. He doesn't discard the broken. He gathers them. He assembles mosaics from shattered hearts. He takes the very things the enemy used to destroy you and turns them into weapons of light. He takes your wounds, your story, your testimony, and places them in the hands of someone crying out for hope. And in that moment you realize, the pain wasn't just about you. It was never the point. It was the path to Him, to purpose, to others. How did you survive? It's a question that echoes through hospital rooms, therapy sessions, and quiet conversations over coffee. It's asked of those who've walked through the fire. Those who've faced the kind of pain that threatens to unravel the soul. The question is simple, but the answer is not. Survival is not about strength, strategy, or willpower. It's not about grit or determination. For true survivors, the answer is far more profound, far more costly. It's death. I didn't survive, you might say. I died. Not in the physical sense, but in a deeper, more transformative way, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. To survive, you had to let go of the parts of yourself that were killing you softly for years. The fear that held you hostage, the pride that kept you isolated, the guilt that weighed you down, the carefully curated image you presented to the world. You had to die to your old self, to the lies you believed, to the chains that bound you. And in that death, something miraculous happened. God raised you up, not as a polished, perfect version of yourself, but as something far more real. Restored, redefined, revived. This is the essence of resurrection, not just a story from an empty tomb 2,000 years ago, but a living reality for those willing to die to the lies that held them captive and rise in truth, grace, and love. This is your story. This is the story of turning wounds into wings, of finding redemption in the ashes, of discovering that nothing, absolutely nothing, is wasted in the hands of a God who redeems all things. Over the course of this exploration, we'll dive deep into what it means to die and rise again, to carry scars that become a beacon of hope, and to live as a testimony to the power of grace. This is not just a story of survival, it's a story of resurrection. Part I. The death that leads to life, the cost of survival. When people ask, "How did you survive?" they often expect tales of heroism or clever strategies. They want to hear about the moment you outsmarted the darkness or powered through the pain. But the truth is far messier. Survival often begins with surrender, with letting go of the very things you thought defined you. For many, this death is not a single moment, but a slow, agonizing process. It's the unraveling of who you thought you were supposed to be. It's the moment you stop clinging to the illusion of control and admit you're broken. It's the night you cry out to God, not for answers but for mercy. It's the realization that the fear, pride, guilt, or shame you've carried for so long is no longer sustainable. Something has to give, and that something is you. This death is not failure, it's freedom. It's the moment you stop running from the truth and let it wash over you. You die to the lie that you're not enough. You die to the need to prove yourself. You die to the voices that tell you your pain disqualifies you from love or purpose. And in that death you make room for something new. The role of surrender. Surrender is not a word we like. It feels like defeat, like giving up. But in the economy of resurrection, surrender is the gateway to life. It's the act of releasing your grip on the things that no longer serve you. The things that keep you tethered to a version of yourself that God never intended. Surrender requires courage. Not the courage to fight, but the courage to stop fighting. It's the courage to trust that God is bigger than your pain, bigger than your mistakes, bigger than the story you've told yourself about who you are. It's the courage to believe that even in your brokenness you are seen, known, and loved. When you surrender, you create space for God to move. You allow the divine to reshape you, to take the fragments of your life and weave them into something beautiful. This is not a passive process. It's an active choice to trust, to let go, to die to the old, so that the new can emerge. The God who raises the beauty of this death is that it's not the end. It's the beginning. Just as Jesus rose from the tomb, God raises those who surrender to Him. This resurrection is not about becoming a perfect version of yourself, but about becoming a truer one. It's about stepping into the identity God has always seen in you. A beloved child, a vessel of grace, a carrier of hope. This raising is not always dramatic. It may not come with trumpets or fanfare. Sometimes it's as quiet as a whisper, as subtle as a shift in perspective. It's the moment you realize you're no longer defined by your pain, but by the one who heals it. It's the moment you feel the weight of shame lift replaced by the lightness of grace. It's the moment you look in the mirror and see not just your scars but the story they tell, a story of redemption. Part 2. Turning wounds into wings. The power of a healed scar. There is nothing more powerful than a healed scar. It's not just a mark of survival. It's a testament to transformation. A healed scar carries history, yes, but it also carries hope. It says, I've been through the fire, and I've come out on the other side. It's a reminder that pain does not have the final word. Your scars, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, are not something to hide. They are your wings now. They are what enable you to soar above the flames that once threatened to consume you. They are what make you relatable, approachable, authentic, in a world that's starving for realness. When others see your scars, they don't see weakness. They see someone who has walked through the valley and come out, stronger not because of their own power but because of the one who carried them. Your scars draw people in, inviting them to share their own stories, to find courage in your journey, to believe that they too can survive. Walking with others through the fire. One of the most profound gifts of a healed scar is the ability to walk with others through their own flames. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be better or wiser or more together than they are. You simply have to be present to say, I know, I've been there, and you're going to make it. This is the ministry of the wounded healer. It's not about fixing people or solving their problems. It's about showing up, scars and all, and offering the gift of your presence. It's about listening to their heartache and letting them know they're not alone. It's about being living proof that survival is possible, that resurrection is real. When you sit across from someone whose pain echoes your own, you'll find that your scars give you a language to speak. You'll know what to say, not because you've memorized the right words but because you've lived them. Your story becomes a bridge, connecting their pain to the hope of healing. The beauty of authenticity in a world obsessed with perfection. Authenticity is a rare and precious gift. Your scars make you real. They make you human. They make you someone others can trust, not because you're flawless, but because you're honest about your flaws. When you embrace your scars, you give others permission to do the same. You create a space where people can be vulnerable, where they can share their own stories without fear of judgment. Your authenticity becomes a beacon, drawing others out of the shadows and into the light of grace. This is the power of turning wounds into wings. It's not just about your own healing, it's about becoming a source of healing for others. It's about using your story to point others to the one who makes all things new. Part 3. Nothing was wasted. The redemption of pain. One of the most profound truths of the Christian faith is that God wastes nothing. Not a single tear, not a single tear, not a single sleepless night or heavy morning. Every moment of sorrow, every ache you've endured, has been gathered like precious oil, redeemed into something weighty, something eternal. This is not to say that God causes your pain, but it is to say that God is in the business of redeeming it. The detours you thought ruined your destiny, they were refining you. The betrayals that broke your heart, they were realigning you. The losses that left you empty, they were expanding you. In the hands of a redeeming God, nothing is lost. Every piece of your story, every moment of joy, every moment of sorrow, has a purpose. It's all part of the tapestry God is weaving. A tapestry too beautiful for earthbound eyes to fully comprehend. The gifts of pain. Pain is a harsh teacher, but it's also a generous one. It teaches you things you could never learn in comfort. It gives you gifts you didn't know you needed. From your pain you gain empathy, the ability to feel with others, to enter into their suffering as one who knows. You gain compassion, the desire to alleviate their pain, to offer them hope. You gain insight, the wisdom that comes from wrestling with hard questions and finding God in the answers. Most of all, you gain presence. Through your pain you become acutely aware of the one who never leaves. The one who walks with you through every valley. The one who carries you when you can't take another step. This awareness is a gift that transforms not just your life, but the lives of those around you. The eternal weight of glory. The Apostle Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 4:17, that our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. This is the promise of redemption, that the pain you endure now is producing something eternal, something glorious, something that will last forever. Your pain is not the end of the story. It's a chapter, yes, but it's not the final one. The final chapter is one of glory, of resurrection, of a life so full of God's presence that every tear is wiped away. Every wound is healed, every scar is transformed into a badge of honor. Part 4. Eternity's perspective. Seeing from the outside. Imagine for a moment that you could step outside of time, into eternity, where the threads of your days form a tapestry too beautiful for earthbound eyes. From this perspective, every moment of your life, every triumph, every trial, makes sense. The storms that threatened to capsize your soul, the thoughts you battled in secret, the moments when you felt past the breaking point, they all fit into a larger story, a story of grace and redemption. From eternity's perspective, you see that you were never alone. Even in your lowest moments you are carried. By grace, by love, by a power greater than your story. The God who walked with you through the fire was weaving something beautiful, something eternal, something that would not only transform you but also touch the lives of others. The tapestry of your life is a letter, written with scars, spoken in whispers, powerful in silence. It's a testimony to the God who redeems, who restores, who revives. Every twist, every valley, every moment of pain has a purpose. It's teaching others to walk with God, to trust in His goodness, to believe in His love. From eternity's perspective, your pain is not a detour, but a destination. It's the raw material God uses to shape you into a vessel of His grace. It's the story He uses to draw others to Himself. It's the proof that nothing, no matter how dark, no matter how painful, is beyond His redeeming touch. Living is a testimony. To live as a testimony is to live with purpose. It's to recognize that your story, with all its messiness and beauty, is a gift to the world. It's to walk with confidence, knowing that your scars are not a source of shame, but a source of strength. It's to speak with courage, knowing that your words have the power to heal, to inspire, to point others to the God who makes all things new. Your testimony is not just for you. It's for the person sitting across from you, whose heartache echoes your own. It's for the one who's standing near their own flames, wondering if they'll survive. It's for the world that's starving for authenticity, for hope, for a glimpse of the God who redeems. Part 3. The journey forward. Embracing your scars. The journey of resurrection is not a one-time event, but a lifelong process. It's a daily choice to die to the lies that hold you captive and rise in the truth of who God says you are. It's a daily choice to embrace your scars, not as marks of defeat, but as badges of victory. Embracing your scars means owning your story, all of it. The highs and the lows, the victories and the defeats, the moments of joy and the moments of sorrow. It means refusing to hide, refusing to pretend, refusing to let shame have the final word. When you embrace your scars, you step into the fullness of who God created you to be. You become a beacon of hope, a living testimony to the power of redemption. You become someone who can walk with others through their own flames, not because you're better, but because you're real. Living with purpose. To live with purpose is to recognize that your story matters. It's to see every moment, every tear, every heartbreak, every triumph, as part of a larger narrative, a narrative of grace and redemption. It's to live with the awareness that God is using your life to touch others, to bring healing, to offer hope. Living with purpose means showing up, scars and all, and offering the gift of your presence. It means speaking truth even when your voice shakes. It means loving others even when it's messy. It means trusting that God is still writing your story, still weaving the threads of your days into a tapestry of eternal beauty. The promise of resurrection. The promise of resurrection is the promise of resurrection, is the promise of new life. It's the promise that no matter how dark the night, morning is coming. It's the promise that no matter how deep the wound, healing is possible. It's the promise that no matter how broken you feel, God is in the business of making all things new. This promise is not just for you but for everyone you encounter. It's a promise you carry in your scars, in your story, in your very presence. It's a promise that says, you are not alone. You are not defined by your pain, you are loved, and you are enough. From eternity's perspective, you see that you were never alone. Even in your lowest moments you are carried. By grace, by love, by a power greater than your story. The God who walked with you through the fire was weaving something beautiful, something eternal, something that would not only transform you but also touch the lives of others. The tapestry of your life is a letter, written with scars, spoken in whispers, powerful in silence. It's a testimony to the God who redeems, who restores, who revives. Every twist, every valley, every moment of pain has a purpose. It's teaching others to walk with God, to trust in His goodness, to believe in His love. From eternity's perspective, your pain is not a detour, but a destination. It's the raw material God uses to shape you into a vessel of His grace. It's the story He uses to draw others to Himself. It's the proof that nothing, no matter how dark, no matter how painful, is beyond His redeeming touch. Living as a testimony. To live as a testimony is to live with purpose. It's to recognize that your story, with all its messiness and beauty, is a gift to the world. It's to walk with confidence, knowing that your scars are not a source of shame, but a source of strength. It's to speak with courage, knowing that your words have the power to heal, to inspire, to point others to the God who makes all things new. Your testimony is not just for you. It's for the person sitting across from you, whose heartache echoes your own. It's for the one who's standing near their own flames, wondering if they'll survive. It's for the world that's starving for authenticity, for hope, for a glimpse of the God who redeems. Part 3. The journey forward. Embracing your scars. The journey of resurrection is not a one-time event, but a lifelong process. It's a daily choice to die to the lies that hold you captive and rise in the truth of who God says you are. It's a daily choice to embrace your scars, not as marks of defeat, but as badges of victory. Embracing your scars means owning your story, all of it. The highs and the lows, the victories and the defeats, the moments of joy and the moments of sorrow. It means refusing to hide, refusing to pretend, refusing to let shame have the final word. When you embrace your scars, you step into the fullness of who God created you to be. You become a beacon of hope, a living testimony to the power of redemption. You become someone who can walk with others through their own flames, not because you're better, but because you're real. Living with purpose. To live with purpose is to recognize that your story matters. It's to see every moment, every tear, every heartbreak, every triumph, as part of a larger narrative, a narrative of grace and redemption. It's to live with the awareness that God is using your life to touch others, to bring healing, to offer hope. Living with purpose means showing up, scars and all, and offering the gift of your presence. It means speaking truth even when your voice shakes. It means loving others even when it's messy. It means trusting that God is still writing your story, still weaving the threads of your days into a tapestry of eternal beauty. The promise of resurrection. The promise of resurrection is the promise of resurrection, is the promise of new life. It's the promise that no matter how dark the night, morning is coming. It's the promise that no matter how deep the wound, healing is possible. It's the promise that no matter how broken you feel, God is in the business of making all things new. This promise is not just for you but for everyone you encounter. It's a promise you carry in your scars, in your story, in your very presence. It's a promise that says, you are not alone. You are not defined by your pain. You are loved, and you are enough.